It is 13 hours 34 in Guyana, and it is time for elections at COVID-19 Watch with senior journalist of Kaiju News, Mr. Leonard Gildarie, and we await his co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, our boys in the studio here, Kevin and Raj, and the rest of the good folks down at Kaicho Radio, Kaicho News. A good day to you and those folks in the newsroom as well. Kongs Advertising, I hope that you guys are doing well. And of course, there are people who've been manning our towers, not only in Eccles, but the one up in Berbice and on the Essequibo coast. A good day to you all for joining us once again. It's July the 24th, 2020. 144 days since that March the 2nd elections. And let me tell you what is in the news today. Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield has appeared in court this morning. After dodging several days, he was dodging the summons of private criminal charges filed against him by a opposition candidate, Dr. Josh Canai. He appeared in court this morning, was placed on $450,000 bail, and he would have to return on August the 14th. He was accompanied to the court by a battery of lawyers. So we will be giving you some more details a little later as we go down. But tomorrow, Guyana is also preparing for something very important, a critical phase of this elections. It is where the appeals court in Kingston there will be hearing an appeal to that decision recently handed down by Chief Justice Acting Roxanne George. That starts at 10 o'clock tomorrow. So we will be bringing you the live feeds from the appeal court on the arguments, on the submissions, and everything that is going to come from that court hearing. So I see my good co-host, as usual, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, would have joined us today. A good day to you, Yog. I hope that you are having a good day as I am. I got up this morning. I was a little tired. It has not been an easy 4.5+ months, I would say. The days are counting by, and we're not getting younger, and so it's been taking a toll, not only on us here who have been trying to keep the people, our good people, abreast of what is happening, but try to also, give them encouragement, give us our little help that we can to make this world a better place. It is our duty, what we've been doing. It is needed. And so, Kaicho Radio, Mr. Glenn Lal, and yourself, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, has come forward and has lent the skills, the capacity that you have brought to the table there. It has really helped our people. And that is evident, of course, from what we would have been receiving thousands of texts, calls. People appreciate what is being done. And this has nothing to do with any elections in terms of any politics that is part of it, but it is to ensure that the rule of law is what counts. So a good day to you, Yog, and to your family. I had a taste of the Solara yesterday, and it did taste good. So I'd be looking forward to more. The boys in the studio appreciates everything that you've done for us in the last day or so. So thank you, and over to you, Yog.
Good afternoon, Leonard. Manners would encourage me to say you are welcome. I'll leave it like that. I want you to know that she is at it again, and so who knows? Who knows what could be coming out of the oven, out of the system today? But Leonard, more about our country. This weekend presents itself as yet another unbelievable weekend where a group of people wants to steal power. I mean, I think that at this stage, let us repeat some of the things just for the sake of ensuring that we all keep abreast of what is happening. Ladies and gentlemen, the narratives are changing and changing so rapidly that sometimes people lose sight of what has transpired and what's the truth. The truth is that Granger, Claudette Singh, everybody praised these elections. Leonard, it is Granger's people that manned every station in this country. It is Granger's people that manned every post in GCOM Secretariat. It is Granger's people that manned everything from returning officers to chief election officer to everything, polling agents, polling clerks, and they knew exactly what transpired. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, remember day 1, day 2, day 3, they refused to release their SOPs. They just refused to let the country see the truth because they knew they were not going to give this thing up, Leonard. They want to create all kinds of confusion, all kinds of things. Now it is down to a handful of persons wanting to say that if you make a move against them, you are being racist. If you speak against them, you're being racist. Kaito News, Kaito Radio, you and I mean, people are being attacked that, you're lucky to have a business, you're lucky that you're allowed to operate. Well, it seems like the cabal wants us that if we need permission from them to live, we must be docile and we must not speak out. So, Leonard, it's getting from bad to worse. Last night we had an interesting conversation with Freddie Kissoon, and we have seen, given the analysis he would have brought out, that the likelihood is there that Granger is not going to give up power. Granger will stay there. If Claudia Singh declares tomorrow morning or next day or whenever it is in her pleasure to so declare that Irfan Ali is the winner of these elections, Granger is going to stay there, and this country will face a long, dark future. Now, how can that be dealt with from now? Leonard, I wish to repeat something I said at the beginning of this week, very quickly. You have persons like Mr. C.N. Sharma. You have people like some of the small parties. You have persons who have joined the coalition. They need to start assessing whether this is what they joined the coalition for, to create a dictatorship. And if it's not, they need to divorce themselves from it, because very quickly, very, very soon, all those who are silent, their silence is support to criminality being perpetrated. And people are going around this country in spreading lies that fraudulent basket of cases and all. Well, it's a basket case talking about a basket of cases. Because the basket of cases, I am challenging them. I am challenging the APNO AFC as a citizen of this country. Take your basket of cases and let's go file an elections petition. Let us go. I will join you with that. Let us file an election petition and have the courts deal with it. It is, Leonard, it is not Congress place must decide what vote is valid or not. It is the right authority that must do so. It is not Congress place that must draft the laws of this country and decide who must breathe and who must not breathe and who must bend and who mustn't bend. It is the people of this country. We have a constitutional right to be what we are, to be as free and to associate how freely we are, Leonard. So we are coming to that point in time, ladies and gentlemen, where as a country we got to decide how we will move forward and whether we are going to allow the news of APNO AFC to tighten around our necks with each passing day.
Absolutely, the Yog Mahadeo, and the interview last evening with Freddie Kissoon, columnist Freddie Kissoon, if you would have missed it, it is there on Kiteshore Radio on Facebook, and also we have it. We have the links that you could get us on YouTube. We're working on that. But what it was, I did receive a lot of calls afterwards. Yog, Freddie Kissoon has always been an interesting person to have a conversation with, and some of the things that he would have said, a lot of people acknowledge that it is indeed something that sounds real, but it would have unsettled a lot of people as well, that he is saying that in his assessment, his analysis, that the coalition is not going anywhere, they don't want to go anywhere, and they have already set the stage. And so we have to prepare, we have to buckle up, and get ready for that. So these are things. So if you've missed that, then maybe we could have a discussion. But let's get straight into that court case this morning with Keith Lowenfield. According to Kaichur News and the breaking news that they have online here, Lowenfield released on bail for fraud charges. Ghana's chief elections officer, Keith Lowenfield, was moments ago released on $450,000 bail after appearing in the Georgetown Magistrate Court to answer criminal multiple charges for his fraudulent conduct in the March 2nd elections. The CEO appeared before Magistrate Faith McGusty with Senior Counsel Neil Boston and Nigel Lewis as his attorneys and was not required to enter plea to the indictable charges relating to fraud, misconduct in office, and breach of the public's trust by providing results for the March 2nd election, which he knows to be false. The CEO was only yesterday served with a court notice after evading court martials for over 3 weeks. At the court, supporters of the coalition flocked the gates and screamed for free Lowenfield. The charges were filed by Daniel Josh Kanai, a member of the New Movement Party, and Desmond Morion of the People's Progressive Party, Civic. The particulars of the charge read that the accused between the 5th of March and 23rd day of June 2020 at Georgetown in the Georgetown Matthew District, County of Demerara, conspired with persons unknown to commit the common law offense of fraud, to which by representing to the Guyana Elections Commission that table attached to his elections report dated 23rd of June 2020 accurately reflected the true results of the said elections in order to materially alter the results of the said election with intent to defraud, knowing that the said tabulation to be false. He will make his next court appearance on August the 14th. We did receive comments that, he was not passed through the chute like what they had done to Ashley Singh, former finance minister of the People's Progressive Party. I think Winston Brassenden. He just came out. There was no handcuffs on him or anything. Not sure what the court's procedures are with that. Presume that's going to become a talking point. What we do know is that he has been placed on bail, and somebody drew the comparison. I think a coalition supporter, Irfan Ali, 19 charges, no own recognizance, and this man here, who's a chief elections officer, was placed on bail. Yog, what is the difference?
There is a lot of difference. Look, a couple of things we need to get in perspective. And as you know, Leonard, I call it the way I see it. I'm not a member of any political party. Mr. Lowenfield should not and ought not to have any political allegiance and alliance. But what he has done is play political games with the elections, with the people's votes. He decided that he wants to burn people's ballots. He decided that he wants to do whatever he thinks he can do. He has the freedom. He decided that he can just call a number and say whoever wins, and the votes must not matter. It's what Lowenfield wants, and the chairman must accept it. That is the kind of man you have there. And then you have APNU AFC senior executive saying that has to be so. Whatever Lowenfield say, it must not have any relationship and is not required to have any relationship with truth, with facts, with the votes. But whatever he says must be accepted. This is what transpired from 1964 to 1985 under Burnham. Mm-hmm. It is the exact party that Trotman et al. Came out from, and they're now singing that exact tune again. The other thing is coming back to the fraud charges. You remember when we had Mr. former President Donald Ramatar a couple of weeks back on our program, not the most recent one, the other one that we had him on. Mm-hmm. I had asked him about it because here is what. The fraud charges against Ali, let's put it in perspective, and I would like to get maybe some of the lawyers on our show to discuss this at some stage.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They were not fraud charges against Ali for decisions Ali took. They were charges against Ali for him carrying out cabinet instructions. In other words, cabinet instructed Ali to carry out certain instructions as a minister of government, and Ali carried those out, and they have taken him to court. Now, you would have an issue from the following perspective. One is that, and that matter has not been heard, one is that Ali would have to appear and answer where or who or what and how was he instructed. And the people who instructed him, the cabinet also would have to therefore send somebody, and the cabinet notes. And here is what I want Ali's case. I want Ali's case to be called in front of the courts, Leonard, and I'll tell you why. What the PNC did to carry Irfan Ali to court, to answer for cabinet decisions, means that cabinet documents previously in Guyana's history have been sealed from the public. Cabinet documents are now going to become public documents. And so all of the APNU AFC cabinet documents will have to become part of the public document because precedents will be set. I want the Ali case to be called and be dealt with. The other thing you got to realize, when the magistrate had charged Winston Jordan, you remember not so long ago, what was it, a year ago?
Yes, there's wrong that.
What did Granger do? Granger gave pardon. So when APNU AFC is talking about former ministers being brought to the court, why didn't Jordan get to face the full brunt of what he was responsible for? Granger pardoned him. Now, come back to the Ali case. I hope my point is noted. I want the Ali matter to be heard, and heard expeditiously, because I want all cabinet documents to be unsealed for this country. And it means the APNU AFC cabinet documents will all be unsealed, Leonard. Everything must come out to light. There must be nothing in hiding. What I can say, though, based on the information I have seen and everything I've read, Ali could not be held personally responsible for carrying out instructions of his cabinet or his government. So it's chalk to cheese. It is very, very different thing. Low and fee is employed by GCOM. What may have to happen, GCOM might have to very well present themselves to court to say whether they agree that he breached or did not breach. I don't know. But we will see how this goes. But I think what is very obvious is that Lowenfield decided that he can go off on his own frolic of his own. He can do what he wants. And nobody, this man feels, you remember Lowenfield came out 3 weeks ago and said he is a constitutional officer? That is the kind of person you're talking about. So, Leonard, we need to put these things in perspective. It's very easy for the people to throw green paint on everything and say it's green paint and you can only see it through their lens. But the truth will always triumph. I don't care how much green paint they throw over everything. The truth is going to come out, Leonard. The brightest of paint fades one day.
Absolutely, Yog. And what is interesting, I think a lot of people sat up and take notice as to the lawyers that represented Lowenfield this morning. One of them was Nigel Lewis, and the other one, I forget what was the other guy named that represented him. Boston, Neil Boston. Interesting. I think the point was made that it was the coalition lawyers that turned up there to represent Lowenfield.
I'll be honest with you. I wasn't surprised at Boston as on my own individual basis. I was genuinely surprised that my brother Nigel Hughes would be an attorney defending Lowenfield. Defending Lowenfield means you stand by everything he has done.
Well, there is going to be some talking points because obviously the battle lines have been drawn very, very clearly. Lowenfield has gotten a team He's taken these charges seriously. And let me tell you this, if I'm a betting man, Yoga, I would say to you that there's going to be more charges that are going to be filed. People are really, really upset. If you're looking at some of the comments, some of the calls that we would have been receiving, people are getting ready. People are thinking very seriously about how they could get some kind of justice for this pain, for the stress that has been foisted on the Guyanese people for the last 4.5 months. They're not going to take it very easily, and I think there's probably even going to be some class actions against
Well,
ministers and even the president.
Leonard, I'll tell you something that is even worse. The sad state that Guyana is in is that Lowenfield is a hero to some people. The sad state that Guyana is in is win or lose, Lowenfield will continue to be a hero to some people. In other words, what the guy name? The Blackie guy?
London, Linden London. I think it's Linden
Yeah,
London, yes.
correct. That gentleman, God rest his soul, is a hero to some of these same people. They draped the Guyana flag over his coffin. So Leonard, the acceptance of what is decent is not the evaluation of decency anymore. It's an evaluation of who's singing for you to continue to do what you want to do. Now, you see all of the persons that are supporting Lowenfield and supporting Grains at this stage. When you ask them at the bottom of it all, they don't want, their talk is they don't want Jagdeo to get into power. They don't want Ali to get into power. They're not defending that by their hate of Jagdeo and Ali, they're willing to throw away an entire elections, Leonard. So because they don't want Jagdeo and Ali to get into power, they're willing to say free and fair elections does not matter in this country and must never matter again. Leonard, these same people in 5 years' time or 10 or whenever will want free and fair elections, will want the self-same checks and balances in place that today they're kicking away. They would want the self-same checks and balances upon a chief elections officer that today they're willing to burn.
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing how we are allowing, because of racist hate and because of party lines, we are willing to accept the gravest indecency for the sake of politics and for political mastery. Leonard, I also believe that Granger and Nagamutu and the cabal there, they want to hold on to power. And they're going to turn it around like as if it's a righteous movement, like as if it's a movement of righteous people. And they're going to turn it around. And this thing that they call for negotiation, they're going to say, you see, we want to talk and nobody wants to talk with us. They are the criminals because they don't want to talk with us. Leonard, that has been historically the mentality of the Hitlers, the mentality of the Stalins, that believe they could foist their will upon mass people, upon the masses. And if you oppose them, you are evil. You are seeing it. It's there in front of us. The moment somebody opens their mouth and speak up in this country, you're attacked, you're ridiculed, everybody goes against you and your family and everything else. And you know, this thing about they wanting to talk, final point I'll make here, Leonard, this thing about they want to negotiate. And what Mr. Hughes would have said a month ago or so about something about sharing corn. You know, Leonard, what amazed me about all these people in politics, these brutes, these hard-hearted people that wants to run this country, they're behaving like as if this thing that they want to share is their own. and that it doesn't belong to the people. The handful of them got to negotiate who must get. Not the people, they're not talking about the people. It's about them. Who must hold what office? Who must have what perks? Who must have what allowances? That's all that matters to them. The poor people in this country matters not. As I said yesterday, you are going to see they go out to the villages to hold meetings, see how much hampers they will take out.
Yes, and that's something that we'll be paying very close attention to. What I think we should also be paying attention to, and maybe you could hazard a guess as to this. Who do you believe, Yog, will be paying for the legal costs for Keith Lowenfield? Who's supposed to be paying for it? Do we know?
That's his personal cost. He has to pay his costs. Is a criminal action against a man. Look, let me put it this way: if Glenn Lal, as the owner of Kaitier News, sends Leonard Gildarie to the Berbice office, and you are driving Glenn Lal's vehicle, but you decide to go above the speed limit. You decide that you will do what you want to do. That is your criminal responsibility. That is not Glenn Lal's.
Mm-hmm.
You have taken a decision to subvert the law. That is your decision, Leonard. And in this case, it is Lowenfield's own decision to act in the way he did, or his conspirators. And so that cannot be and must never be allowed to be a cost that will be borne by the taxpayers of this country.
Thank you very much for that, Yoga. We will be looking at those costs. That's something that's going to come up back. It's not going to die away. All these cases, I think it's 12 court cases so far that we would have seen since March the 2nd. And who would have been paying these for these court cases? Was it the political parties? Was it somebody else? Was it the state? It's our belief so far that it is a state that has been saddled with hundreds of millions of dollars in bills, and that would come at the same time with when people are suffering, not getting any kind of help for COVID-19. We cannot get away from that. That's something that's hanging over our head, the COVID-19 situation there. Yog, last evening we would have heard that 2 persons died in the Rupununi area. We're still trying to develop that situation. It's coming out from the South Rupununi area. They came in contact with COVID-19. Very little thing. We have not heard from Walter Lawrence a very long time. We have not heard from the Minister of Education for a very long time. Is it because they're not operating or they're out of the country? We don't know. What we do know is that figures are coming out that shows the numbers going up. I think we passed the 350 mark right now in terms of positive cases. But let's go straight into the Kaitier newspaper here because I want to get on to other things very quickly. Lowenfield finally served at court notice on fraud charges. They would have, I think we have to look back at the story. I think they would have been staking him out because he's been evading them all the time. And they were finally able to get him, corner him, and serve him yesterday. PPPC will fiercely resist any coup attempt, and this is coming from the opposition leader by Jagdeo. Very guarded in his comments, but he's saying that they're not going to stand by. I think this is something that we tried to draw Freddie out from yesterday, last evening, but by Jagdeo and the People's Progressive Party in the opposition, although they've been handed the victory by the count and then the recount, which was endorsed by CARICOM, but also given the nod by several countries. We saw that those number of countries within South America this morning coming forward and issuing a joint statement, but everybody is giving them. But the People's Progressive Party has remained very quiet, very respectful based on what we've seen here. They're not doing anything to rock the boat that would probably give the edge to for any kind of thing to happen. So we continue to pay attention to that. Six South American nations say declare CARICOM certified recount figures. We did talk about this just now. This is one of the headlines in the July 24, 2020 Kaitier News edition front page. Elections declaration case. Attorney General files cross appeal almost identical to appellants. Yog, This is interesting because we had spoken not too long ago about cut and paste. Maybe we can talk about that in a little while.
Mhm.
And this is a sad case here too. Man was shot in Middle Road there. The boy went home, pick up his lunch and his bag, and because he worked with the company, maybe they were tracking him. Bike bandits pulled up and shot him under his arm. They probably didn't expect, but like it entered into his chest area and he died. A very young man, Navin Samaru. Condolences here from our team here, Dr. Yog Mahadeo and ourselves, to the family and friends of young man. These are things that we could very well do without. Had poverty, had we been looking at our oil situation, had we been looking at that, because everything comes back to poverty and not educating our people enough. And so these are things that we'd have to continuously talk about. Yoga. Everything comes back to money. People will not commit crime and go steal if there's jobs available, if there are benefits available, and there's things that are not being addressed. Opposition commissioners condemn attacks on GCOM chair Claudette Singh. And this would have we would have spoken about this yesterday. That says Gunraj, Robertson Ben, Bibi Shadik, the three opposition commissioners on the Guyana Elections Commission with a comment said while they do not agree, they issued a statement. While they do not agree at all times with Claudette Singh, what they do know is that they can't stand by and allow those attacks, unwarranted in many cases, coming from different persons because she would have been doing her job. They totally disagree with that, and they've issued a statement. Guyana broke its own laws to facilitate Exxon's flaring, international lawyer. And very quickly, I think a couple of days back, we did tell you that the Guyana Power and Light with regard to COVID-19. If you know you can't pay your light bill, I think we're going to repeat again here. If you know you can't pay your light bill, they're offering at this point in time a payment plan. While we would have loved to see yoga, spoken about this many times myself too, about some other ways that we could have done it to ease the burden on our people across this nation, let them get the money to buy food and do other more essential stuff. The Guyana Power and Light and the Guyana Water Inc. They're both state-owned, so there's things that you could do, measures that you could put into place that would see those benefits of not paying being passed on directly to the people of Guyana. That has not been done. Now we're talking GPL 4.5 months later. They're now talking, come in, let us talk. Is this going to happen right away? This is not something that's going to happen overnight. And then you have to apply online. If you don't have money for internet, money to eat, do you have money for internet? I don't know, yoga. We got to be a set of jokers in this place. In the meantime, the COVID-19, the authorities are saying that there are new guidelines for the public health, for the public service offices, wherever you're working in government, that you have to be 6 feet apart if you're working. These are things that they've laid down. They want to put in plexiglass partitions so staffers would not be able to interact too much with each other, but have that kind of protection. So that is it in terms of the big news that has been coming out here. So yoga, we come back to let's talk GPL because a lot of people, while this election has been ongoing, you would have been receiving a lot of calls, myself, Kaicho Radio, Kaicho News, in terms of how people are suffering. I think people don't really care if you get up in the morning and you're hungry. There's very little attention that you'd be paying to this political situation. Of course, it's a big thing because if we get that solved, we could look at COVID. However, for many people, it's a day-to-day struggle. In fact, I get in so many calls, Burbies, and I did talk about the situation yesterday about this lady who's telling us about how neighbors are sharing things, asking for potato here, garlic there. It is something that is so heartbreaking. Yesterday, by the way, while we were talking when I went downstairs, there's a family from Crane Village, West Coast, Demerara, the Daneshwar Prasad. they did send some help, and which we have passed on to the people. I want to say hello to this Crane family. It is what we would have appealed to our people to start looking right within their neighborhood, to the people that who would be who are suffering. So let's start at charity begins right in your hometown, in your neighborhood. Start doing that. Let us pay attention. Let us be our brothers, sisters keepers, neighbors keepers, and start doing sharing a little thing to ease the burden. Because when they don't have, you could imagine when desperation kicks in, what could happen. And God forbids that we have reached that stage. We know that people are really, really suffering. Over to you, Yog.
Yes, Leonard. The people are suffering out there in the countryside, and unfortunately, we have a couple of things that continues to be problematic. I think the U.S. government, U.S. embassy would have given to the CDC a lot of money, Leonard, and as yet we don't know where and how this monies would have been put to use. But in the meanwhile, people out there, as you rightly say, needs help. And remember, the COVID-19 cases are not going down. We just don't know where it is and what's happening there. I would like to reach out. There is a gentleman named Nankishore Singh that posts all kind of comments. Sir, feel free to come on air. If you disagree with the questions we are asking, you can send them to us, and we are going to give you your own space on your own show for your superior intellect to come forward. So feel very welcome. Leonard and I are always open to allow people to come on the program and to give their superior intellect. And you don't have to call people names to get your point over. Leonard, on the other hand, I want to note again what the police has been doing. The police, I think the last COVID-19 guidelines would have said that, restriction on social activities, including meetings of any fraternal society, private or social club or civic association or organization, or any other social activity. However, I've noticed that the police seem like the Minister of Public Security or former minister, his intelligence forces or intelligence gathering seems not to be working. So they did not know, or they could not have known, that persons would have assembled in front of the courts yesterday or today. They could not have known and would not have known persons would assemble in front of GCOM. Law and order is something serious, Leonard, and, it's a shame to see the minister and the police behaving one-sided. I am looking at this ordinance. I'm looking at it in front of me here, a public health ordinance with instructions about prohibiting meetings and of any associations and organizations and anything like that. And yet you are seeing persons are planning to have public meetings across this country, and not an announcement from the minister, not an announcement from Mr. Ramjatan to advise people to cease and desist from public gathering. Not an announcement from Mr. Moses Nagamutu. Not an announcement from Joe Harmon, who is still the CEO, and they're all receiving monies, mind you. Taxpayers, you are still paying them. You are still paying their salaries for them to be so one-sided, Leonard, in everything. But, I think the truth of this is that we see the one-sidedness there. Thank God, unfortunately, a lot of persons in this country, regardless of their political persuasions, a lot of persons are mature in their thinking, and a lot of persons are saying, I am not going to go out there and do that. I'm not going to go out there and put my family at risk. Because, ladies and gentlemen, when you go out there and you mingle with crowds and you get out there, you are putting your own children and your own family at risk because you go back home. So, Leonard, the crime spree seems to be increasing as well. When last have we had anything from the police about crime in the country? So the real things about what should be transpiring in the country seems to be really have taken a back seat, and the police and everybody is paying attention to something else, Leonard.
Yes, and it is true, Yog. But you're talking about when last time the police would have talked about that. When last did we hear from the Minister of Education? Somebody's asking here, what about schools reopening? We are headed into August. In a few days, it's going to be the end of July. We're in the second half of the year. We have not started preparations. I'm still up in the air with regards to our students writing an exam. I'm not sure how that would have gone and what was the need for that. But let us assume that they went ahead and they wrote it, and let's see where that goes from there. Do we have a plan for the rest of the year? What is it that we say? And I think any good administrator are consistently supposed to be talking to people under them, meaning either to your management, to the supervisors, to the ground staff, or to the people of the country. And if you have a ministry that is supposed to be in transition mode, caretaker mode, and you're dealing with something like COVID-19, we are seeing measures being issued, regulations, measures being announced over what they want for the workplace. What is happening to the students? What is happening to the people?
Right.
The schools reopening? Is that not important, Yog? What are we doing? And the police, you're right. When you see the people that are gathered in front of the court, this is not an ordinary place. This is not too far from the Brigham police station, which is the headquarters for the A Division in
Yeah.
Region 4. Not too far away from that is a court. In front of the court, the Georgetown Magistrate Court is the top magistrate court in the country, maybe the head of it. And so when you see that happening in front of there, it says a lot, and that is how people start perceiving what the rule of law, about how it all stands, and whether they should have any respect for it. If you can't respect it, that stone throw away is our national
That's
parliament building where we pass laws. So all this is happening in the full view of everybody driving along that High Street area, the Brigham area, they're seeing everything and says, oh, they're gathering there, and yet we going to seawall, the police would come and remove us. And we know that you're not supposed to
right.
be in the seawall, but I'm just saying, we might as well start going to the rum shop. In any case, the rum shops are open. All the rum shops are open. If you go by the junction of the Suzaik, I'm diverting it a little here to show you how much of a Wild West, how much of a joke we have become when it comes to the rule of law. And that is because if at your home, the father of the home is not showing an example, what you believe the children would do. So you go to Suzaik Linden Highway there, by the junction there, which is always a party place. We're in the midst of the COVID-19 lockdown, because it's still a lockdown officially, and you have parties over the weekend. I go into Grove, all the bars are open, everybody drinking, big music playing. The police station not too far away. Is it that the police are not paying attention? We had this story the other day. I keep talking about it, but people, I don't think the police has any respect for the people of Guyana. Somebody escaped, stole the police commissioner vehicle, and this is a nice SUV, a black SUV. I think it's a Land Cruiser, and went to a adults entertainment bar on the East Bank, which is supposed to be closed. And that's a story. They locked it in front, it's closed all in front, but the lights are on upstairs and they have parties at the back. Neighbors call you and say, what the heck is going on here? The cars, they're not parking in front of the bar anymore. They're parking 2 streets away. So somebody got away with a police commissioner vehicle, and the police commissioner does not see it fit to issue a statement, but somebody took a picture of it. It's very, very clear. But you see, these are all examples of how our country, I'm rambling a little here today, but I want to underscore when we talk about the father of the house that is breaking the laws, that is not doing anything to lead by example. The people on the ground are going to do whatever it is that they're doing.
That's right, Leonard. I mean, on the other front, I mean, I find it strange that if you were to drive along the coast, the roadways of Guyana, you're going to be stopped 2, 3 times by policemen. So we do have a police force. We do have a police force, Leonard. They haven't been fired and sent home. They're out there. They're checking you. They're checking your papers. They're checking your vehicle. but it seems like checking your vehicle for papers is much more important than maintaining law and order. And that is strange. It is strange because it tells us where the police force directives for their priority is. Leonard, I have nothing against the police men and women themselves. They're very decent, most of them. A lot of them are very friendly and professional in what they do. My point is that what would be the priorities at this stage?
You
So
have
you
to
are right.
lead. You have to lead, Yog. You have to lead.
Correct. And you know they're driving anxiety and driving fear because you know it's like you know who you check in or what are you checking or what are you really up to? What are you really doing? Whereas when people are gathering all over the place, you see people daring the police, come and hold me. I am this and I am that, and slapping their chest and doing this and doing that, and you dare to touch me, you dare to hold me. So law and order will only work for certain people in this country, Leonard. And unfortunately, we all got to decide how we want to carry this country forward because it seems like you know, those who embrace misrule, illegalities are becoming, you know, heroes and heroines. And those who take the side of law and order gotta go in the corner. When you look at the slew of lawyers and the protection, for example, afforded to a man who is on the criminal charges, Leonard, and you look at the prosecutor, the other attorney, and the verbal and almost physical attacks that he had to face, and the threats he had to face going to his own vehicle, it's amazing. You mean police didn't know that there would be a case, a high-profile case this morning, and the police didn't know that people might, people's passion and anger and emotions might be running high.
My reporter came back and told me that they verbally assaulted her this morning. We will have a discussion on it in a little while. You're from Kaiser News, and you know, we accustomed to attacks from different areas. I think it comes with the territory. If you're in this business and nobody paying attention to you, it means that you're not doing something. You're not doing it right. We're accustomed to that. But they singled out Kaiser News and they went after her. You're the newspaper that's been writing all about Lowenfield, and so. The girl, you know, I think she says, I think what struck me is she said that the police were standing right there and they had this big crowd of people not observing the social distance thing. Not some of them now wear masks, and the police were doing absolutely nothing to give her any kind of protection. So that is when we talk about law and order in this place and the respect for rules and regulations. If the father of the house is not showing any respect, and we got to keep drilling it in the people's mind, then you're not going to have any respect at all for this country. And you know, even in America, I could remember, I smile, I can remember there was this movie star that I really liked, Wesley Snipes, and he ran afoul of the tax laws. He probably didn't pay tax a couple of years. I think he ended up in jail, if I'm not mistaken. And you would have had a very powerful man like back in the 1930s. Was it Al Capone? They couldn't get him on anything, but they got him on tax evasion. And that is according to the RICO laws. But these are things that we have to pay attention to when you have policemen standing in front of the magistrate court in Georgetown in the middle of downtown, and people are passing and see that they're allowing other people to protest when, you know, you arrest a man and you charge him because you stand up protesting with a placard, and then you drop the charges against him. You would have wasted that man's time, you wasted that court's time. You should be slapping some fines onto the police for cost, for wasting the court time, because that's what it is.
And Leonard, if we can turn briefly to the courts itself, I see that there's been a lot of agitation being built up on APNU ASC's pages that is calling for one of the judges to recuse herself from the matter that will be heard tomorrow. Now, we cannot presume to want to take the role or to go into the mind of the judge. What we know is that we have never, on this forum and on Room 592, we have never attacked any of the judiciary, any of the members of the judiciary, and we do not plan to. What we have done is call for the Bar Association to speak out against the face of these attacks. Again, I'm calling on the Bar Association to speak out because, Leonard, unless I'm mistaken, isn't it the Chancellor of the Judiciary that would have had a say in the appointment of who comes to hear the case? And so in this matter here, it is not that judge. I mean, the two of them are already part of the Court of Appeal. But the third judge, the last time around, came from the High Court, and this time around, the third one comes from the High Court as well.
And if you want to juxtapose or if you want to draw parallel there, Yog, when you had the Court of Appeal, I might not attack any judges. I'm not going to attack. I'm just going to point out what's obvious, which is that you have a Court of Appeal. 2 times it made decisions. One was the case with the numbers, those famous numbers in the 30s. And then you had the other one recently with the supposed insertion of the word valid into the Constitution that went to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Nobody came out and says, well, Yog Mahadeo sitting as a judge there has a special linkage to a particular politician. Nobody said that at that point in time. In fact, I think it was Anananda that we had in this particular in room 592, and he was very careful in his language because I was very careful too. I didn't want nobody call me up and have me for contempt before the court for daring to question the courts in Guyana. But when it was put to him, he made it very clear that his party, the People's Progressive Party, Civic, was very much aware of circumstances surrounding a particular judicial officer. And so we have to be very careful in that we don't question somebody would use the word sanctity, somebody would use the word the innocence of the judiciary, because those are things, it's one of the 3 or one of the 4 pillars of government. You have the judiciary, the legislative, you have the executive, and of course, sitting in yonder's gallery is the 4th estate, that's the media, and these are very important part of how our government should function. The media should be given its independence, of course, with responsibility. You could only ask them to be responsible. I think there's so many media houses now that it's imperative that individual media houses take it upon themselves to carry out their mandate in a very responsible manner. The rest of them is supposed, like the judiciary is supposed to be independent. You can't direct the judiciary. You cannot, the president cannot direct parliament how it should vote. The parliament would vote in a particular way because there's 65 seats is there. There's a speaker that's sitting there. There's a clerk of the assembly that's sitting there. So it's functioning by itself. And of course the executive, they have the government, the president, and the cabinet that's there, and so they're supposed to be independent of each other, dependent if there's a problem. You could go to the courts, and there's not supposed to be any direction to the court. That's the way that I was taught. That's the way we believe that it's supposed to be operating. All countries that is supposed to be modern, that wants to do what's the correct thing, that wants to be righteous, should allow the different levels, the different pillars of government to work.
Leonard, and on all pillars are supposed to work because they're independent. The judiciary is very, very, very independent and ought to continue to be independent of any influence from the state, from the executive. And, the judiciary stands in its own regard and has always stood well, Look, regardless of what was said of the composition of the members of the judiciary to have heard previous Court of Appeal cases, I never questioned their rightness. I never questioned that is for their position. I could disagree, and we all have a right to disagree with any judgment. Everybody has a right, and everybody has an agree, depending which side you're on, right? Whether you're on the side of the prosecution or you took the side of the defense, you're going to agree or disagree with whatever judgment. But I've never questioned I've always hoped, and you know, every time we go to the court, I've always said this here, Leonard. I know that they, you know, and we continue to hope that the members of the judiciary will apply, you know, whatever laws and whatever it is that is being presented in front of them to make their decisions, knowing that whatever decision they're making is not a decision just for a day, you know, is a decision that will influence all future decisions of its kind. So this is why you go to appeal something sometimes. They would go to the CCJ after that to ensure that if they disagreed with that decision, that flaw is not perpetrated into the future. Now, so I find it rather poor management, poor strategy to be attacking judges. But you know, it is what persons do, as I think one of the cartoons had. You're railing at tilting at windmills. You know, you're tilting at windmills. Everything that moves, you're going to attack. Everything that thinks and talks and walks, you will attack. Because as long as there are people in this country that does not have a garland in their hand to garland Mr. Granger and say, hello, Mr. Maximum Leader, then you are not going to be accepted as part of their crew or as part of Guyana even. Leonard, the discussion must go even further.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, this case is going to, let's hope that Monday is a decision. And then it goes to the CCJ. You're looking at the end of this month. Next weekend is the end of this month. And you're going to enter into month number 5. By the time the CCJ finishes, you might be halfway of month number 5 and you're nearing half a year. Half of a year by the time this circus is this current cycle may be complete. Half of a year. Add that to the year and a half that PNC stayed in power after the NC, and they have extended their stay in office by almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Leonard, and these 2 years are on taxpayers' money. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to remind you all, Granger continued to collect his monies from the state. Notwithstanding you and I can't afford a meal, Nagamoto continues to collect. They all continue to collect what they collect presently. They continue to get their duty-free concessions. They continue to do the things they are doing. They continue to drive around on taxpayers' money with a taxpayer-paid person to drive them around. You are paying for their happiness. You are paying for everything for them to presently sit and tell you you have no right to vote and you have no right to have your vote counted. That is the danger that we are in, Leonard. While we are paying their salaries, they are telling us, well, you're nobody. Your vote mustn't matter.
Yes, it is. I wonder, is the Prime Minister, good Prime Minister, still in this country? Is he here? I'm not sure. We haven't seen him for a very long time. We haven't seen a press conference from him as a chairperson of the National COVID-19 Task Force. What we could tell you...
He's busy. I can tell you he's very, very busy working up the verbiage to attack the foreign leaders in his next article again.
Article? He writes articles?
Yeah, he submits his verbiage to the RAG.
Oh, okay. And I want to say a good day to my dear sister, Petal Moses. Petal Moses says, all the years you want a radio, I think she said you didn't get a radio. Who opened the door so you can now talk? I want to say thank you very much to that, Petal. The good coalition would have been the one that issued the radio license. We would have applied like any other person.
Sorry. Sorry, my brother. I'm really, really sorry to interrupt you. I'm really sorry. It's not the coalition give you a license, my friend.
Yes, okay,
go ahead. It is
Broadcast
Authority that responded to a list of applicants, and the Broadcasting Authority would have given you a license. That Broadcasting Authority was operating under the tenure of a PNC government, APNU government, and it was another authority of a similar kind that granted Kaieteur News their newspaper license. At that time, it was the PPP in government. So if you are saying Kaieteur Radio must not attack PNC, well, it means Kaiju News ought not to have attacked the PVP. I don't know. I don't know how we start to think like this, Leonard. Because you get a license under their watch, well, you must shut up. And it's like, okay, whatever whoever do to you. So if a criminal goes next door to that person's home and does whatever they want to do, burn it down to the ground even, as long as your home wasn't touched, you ought not to speak out.
Yes, and Yog, you're right, but I'm not sure where the issue of attacking anybody. I'm not sure. I can't speak for any other media house. What I could speak on this, we would find issues when it comes to the spending of monies, when it comes to the spending of taxpayers' dollars, when it comes to laws being diverted, laws being bent to allow certain things to happen. When we come to lands being given away, when it comes to not getting a good deal, this country not getting a good deal for its resources, we are going to criticize. We are going to report it. There is going to be commentary on it. Is that attack? No, that's what a newspaper does. That's what a good media house does. And we've been around 25 years. On one side, and sometimes I think the PPP like us, and then some other times they don't like us. The coalition loved us in 2015. After 2015, they started not to like us so much. I can tell you this morning that our reporters have been blocked by a couple of ministers, at least that's a report that I have. I think they may be writing the stories. When they call them and ask them about their stance on a particular thing, the ministers them block them. And that is our representative here in Guyana, representatives of the people who would have come wrong and asked you for the votes. And so they start blocking you as the voters. They're not representing you. When they go in there, you become kings and queens. So they block our people. That's what they do. They don't have to answer. They're not obligated to answer. So I want to thank Petal for that.
The question I have for you, or for Petal, did APNO AFC give you this license and give you on a silver platter? It's free. You're paying anybody who has a license to operate. You pay for the license. Well, most people, not all, but I do know that you guys are paying for your license. You're paying for the use of spectrum. You're paying for everything, and you're paying taxes as well.
Yog, I could tell you for a fact, and maybe they could call Glenn too, and he could probably go through it. It's several $1 million per year that you have to pay, and not only for the broadcast license, but for the spectrum. And we have not really made a cent because there's no business that's running. In fact, we at a standstill right now with business. Who you going to ask to support you right now in terms of these programs? We're doing these programs free.
Correct. And Leonard, the other thing as well, I mean, if I may just on that point a little bit more, it is because of your, you get an ability, you have a factory, you're producing, in this case, you have a license, you're producing, you employ people, the people are paying taxes, you are paying taxes, and guess what? A minister's salary is being paid. How would a minister's salary be paid if you don't operate this station here?
Yes, it is indeed true. And a man did call me this morning, and he had a very interesting conversation. If you're listening, you know who you are. But the man did point out, the man says, Freddie introduced thought, or he has been pushing, or he has been talking about what happens if there's a swearing in or there's a declaration for Irfan Ali. And he's saying that if the people stay in, the Freddie says that it could continue. He's not very sure. He says within 1 month, if such a scenario comes up, it's going to crumble for the simple reason people are going to stop paying taxes. Who do you pay taxes to? If you don't have money, how are you going to pay the army? How are you going to pay the police? What are you going to use to pay public servants? The bank again, you can't just go in and withdraw just like that unless you commandeer and put a gun to the head of maybe the governor or somebody there and says sign these checks or cash it or something. He says it's almost impossible to do that. He says in most cases where dictatorship has happened, the countries would have gotten some endorsements from maybe a neighboring country or maybe one, two other organization overseas, and that so doing you would get some help. In this particular case, there's nobody in the world around the region across this globe that has lent any endorsement to the coalition in this entire episode or these episodes of the soap opera that's been happening in Guyana. So he says, don't that's not something to even think about. It is not going to happen. Even if they think it will happen, it's you can't have a legitimate president or a lawful president that's sitting there who's been declared, and you believe that you're going to hold on to power and expect the different entities to run. I'm not a professional or in terms of an expert in this, Yog, but maybe some thoughts from you on this.
Well, well, Leonard, I would want to agree with the person with that opinion, but you know what? Not I wouldn't agree totally. The other side of the argument still holds true. Look, we're all thinking of this as if it is Granger and Nagamutu that stays in government, and PPP forms a parallel government, and we're in a political chaos. But Leonard, let's think down about our villages. Let's think about law and order. Let us think about people who are protesting and who want to continue to protest. Let us think about, if you go to charge somebody for something, what's the state of the judiciary? Even if it's 1 month, the damage that will be done to the society will last for decades. It is not something that must be taken lightly, and certainly we all hope it doesn't happen. We hope it doesn't happen. But let me put it this way. Those people who currently today have lied to themselves so much and so repeatedly that they believe that these elections were defrauded by somebody else other than APNO AFC, are they ever going to come to a position where they will accept, regardless of whether Granger is there or not, Leonard? They are going to carry that mantra on and on and on and on, and they will carry it on for a very, very long time. They're not going to change their position. So the dynamics and the arguments and the dialogue, well, not dialogue, the monologue on one side is going to continue to be what it is. In the meanwhile, people who are opposed to the Granger government, they are going to be unforgiving. They're going to say, look, you guys held us like this, and you did not give an inch, and you know what, we are not. So this thing is bigger. The divide that is being done to the psyche of this nation is very, very great. This will require big men and big women, people with big hearts, people in whose hearts they don't see Afro and Indo-Guyanese and Chinese Guyanese and Portuguese. They're seeing Guyana and Guyanese. Big men and big women to sit and heal this nation. But it will not be up to the PPP or the PNC, because whatever the PPP do when it gets sworn in, this cabal is going to want to adopt what Desmond Hite had done. Mm-hmm. And they're going to want to ensure they disrupt everything. Leonard, too much water has flowed under that bridge. And I don't see that even if they come out from office, it will be easy for the people of this country.
And yes, and we have said it before, Yog, and I will say it again here too. There's a lot of work in terms of our cohesion. This is something that's been talked about in the past, and we were never serious about it because an entire ministry was formed, the Ministry of Social Cohesion, under David Granger. And with one fell swoop, after March 2nd, they wiped that out. Any attempts that was made to bring our people together. And I saw a statement coming out from, I think it was the Interreligious Organization, sorry for that. I see where they're headed with that. But, using religion to push a particular agenda is not something that is good. If those churches are paying attention, you pay attention to them too, because those are the ones that is, how you say it, backing an evil agenda. That is not something that's very good. People should be paying attention, put the name up big and understand who these people and what they are doing to this country. But social cohesion was a big joke under this administration, because if you see what would have happened now, and I think for me, forget, not forget, but if you put aside for the suffering of the people, one of the biggest thing that I find it very difficult in my heart to forgive is what they have done to our people. This deep division, the wedge that they would have driven to separate our people like this, all for the sake of power, the greed for power, Yog. We can't put it anywhere. I can't, Gildarie cannot sit down here anymore and just stay quiet, or let us put it in diplomatic language, or urge them in a little diplomatic language to just, do the right thing. Let's put it on the table. It's been 4.5 months. We got to take off the glove right now, and we got to say to you what you've done to this country. It is totally unbelievable. It's a handful of you. It's not all Guyana. All Guyana is not like that. We have decent people here. Even the supporters, and which we know is about 40% of the people, a little more than 40% would have come out and supported the coalition. What is acceptable at this point in time, Yog, is that not all of them that are there are encouraging this. These are God-fearing people. These are people who want this country to move on. So it doesn't matter. They want to get on with it. They want to work. They want to take home a salary. They want to be protected. They want the kids to go to school. These are decent people in Ghana, Yog. What you have happening here is a handful who put this country on pause, put the play button there and stopped it, and says we ain't going nowhere, and whatever come, we're gonna deal with that at a point in time. Guess what? What are you gonna govern? What are you gonna govern? Who are you gonna govern?
That's right. You are right, Leonard. And this is why a small group of persons have started to talk about about having different places in this country now. There is a small group of persons that's talking about, well, if you want to govern your own place, and govern your own area, and this and that and the other. So we're going to have all that kind of dynamics arising very, very quickly. Leonard, Guyana has a lot of problems. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that our border issue continues with Venezuela. Our border issue continues with Suriname. Those things haven't gone away, Leonard. They're still there, right? Now you have the political issues here, and so while we are have disagreement with our neighbors, we have such vast disagreement with ourselves. And people are behaving like as if, I've seen discussions over in social media that made me wonder if we could ever move on as a people. When people are talking about who's contributing and who's not contributing to this nation, and when people are talking about who owns business and who doesn't own business, when I look at it, Leonard, I sometimes feel that people conveniently forget that this country was under PNC rule from 1964 to 1992, and from 2015 to 2020 and still counting. So for all of those years, PNC has been in office. So when we talk about who has been ruling Guyana for the longest time, and who has been in charge and who has done this and who has done that, we can see what we're talking about. Let us compare how we are moving as a people. How much tolerant are we today than we were a couple of years ago? We have retrogressed. We have gone backwards, Leonard. Now you have so much talk about us versus them. What about moving ahead? Leonard, your children and my children are going to go to the school with everybody else's children. The children don't matter. They don't care who is it that sits next to them. They love everybody without the feeling of any hate. But today, the children are at home. They're looking at the television. They're looking at the programs. They're seeing the things, and they are as well being affected. So we have a sad situation, Leonard. And what is even worse is show me how many young people wants to be a future David Granger. Show me how many young people wants to emulate what presidents, whether it's Granger, Ramutar, Jagdeo, Burnham. Show me the young people that wants to emulate and say in the future, I want to be like this person or I want to be like that person. It speaks to what we have accomplished as a nation, Leonard.
Mm-hmm. And Yog, there's one other thing before we open the lines, Yog. I saw this statement, and I think you did mention it in room 592 last evening, that came out and it went on the attack. It went on an attack on the Secretary General of CARICOM as well as Ralph Gonzalez. Do we know for sure whether it's Joseph Harmon that wrote that? Do we know? What do we know?
Well, Leonard, as we said last night, it was shared, it was posted on his page. We don't know the author, but one would think if you share something, you endorse it. If you share something without saying, I disagree with this, like what Stanley Ming did, Stanley Ming shared something and he said, I disagreed with this.
Mm-hmm.
Harmon shared it, and that's it. Right? But I believe what has been happening here is that they're throwing mud in all directions. They're throwing faces, throwing whatever, you name it. They're throwing it in all directions, and whatever sticks, it sticks. Yeah. That is what our taxpayers' money are being used for, by the way, for them to sit and do all of this, and whatever sticks, it sticks. So we got to look also, Leonard, what does the future hold? Because as you rightly pointed out a little while back, what will be the state of the National Assembly? What will be the state of an opposition? Will there be a good opposition? Will there be anybody that can speak out against a government that will go or could go out of control?
And nobody's paying attention to that. I keep saying it over and over. That is something we must have a strong opposition, a responsible opposition. And if we don't have that, we're going to go back to maybe square one. And I would like to see the coalition comes out and they go and they become a very good opposition so they could work with the media, they could work with the government, take over the key positions within the parliamentary committees rather, and let them do their job. There's one of the key committees that is going to be there is going to be the one that's going to be in charge of the oil and the oil revenues and how we spending it and so on. That is going to be a key parliamentary committee. Nobody's talking about these kind of things. Nobody's talking about who's going to be looking at our natural resources and the management of it. How do we improve it? How do we ensure that we get more royalties? How do we ensure that the resources that we get in from the back dam there, that we are putting it in the Bank of Guyana, is investing it in a very good manner? These are things that we should be talking about. In any case, we want to open the lines as usual for people to call us 226-7453, 226-7453, and of course text us on 62222. That is on WhatsApp and normal text, and let us hear how are you making out in this COVID-19 time, and also some of your thoughts with regards to elections 2020. Anything, Yog, before we go straight to the lines?
Let's go to the lines. We'll continue the conversation, but the issue that I think we also have to keep in mind is, to be vigilant and be calm. We're all flustered, we're all frustrated, but ladies and gentlemen, we have to be calm. We can speak, we can share opinion, but let us not do things that, that would take us in any way out of control with ourselves. And you see, for example, like our brother Tulsi Ram, Tulsi, my brother, if a people cannot speak out against any government, then they're not worthwhile. It is because people could have spoken out against the corruption, pre-2015 corruption, that we can speak out now. Those who didn't speak out against the corruption pre-2015 were supporting something that was wrong. And there is no moral obligation to speak out now. Wrong is wrong. It doesn't matter who do it. It doesn't matter what race does it. It doesn't matter what political party does it. If it's wrong, it is wrong. And we will continue to talk about it.
And yes, I think we right the vehicle, we right the boat back evenly on the water. Let us continue to do our job. Our mandate is very, very clear to the people as a newspaper. We are going to get it. We're going to get it wrong at times. Though, would we have known that in 2015? Did we change course coming to the 2020? I think because this is a conversation that we would have as a newspaper, as a responsible newspaper, over the years. Did we do it right? Did we deliver on our mandate? What is the mandate? We have some young reporters who are asking the right questions now, who are very aggressive in what they do. They're coming on the attack for it, but guess what? It is a conversation that you continuously would have to have with yourself, and not only that, you have to keep examining where you are along the way, whether you're doing the right thing, what are some of the objectives of what you're doing, and you keep fine tuning it as you go along. There's a call online. Yes, good afternoon, caller, you're on the air. Good afternoon, caller, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, Mr. Leonard and Mr. Yog.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a comment today.
Sure.
I didn't think Lewin Field should take part in NEM at the DCOM chair because he charged now and he's there under charge. He's supposed to take part in election commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yoga, and that's something I didn't think about. Now that he's been charged, whether it's a private criminal charge or so, he is before the court. How does that all work?
Well, another person is innocent until proven guilty.
Mm-hmm.
It is a charge. It does not say that he is guilty or innocent. It is just a charge. Until such time that he is found to be guilty, it will be up to him to say he cannot continue working there, or for him to for his boss to say under the circumstances, why don't you take a leave of absence and look after your personal matters, that legal matters that are coming up to you.
Mm-hmm.
And just to answer Ms. Ramatar, who was used some verbs there and so forth. Yes, we can have that discussion about where was the 2015 corruption. It doesn't mean that because there was no charges being made that there wasn't corruption. There was corruption, and we can have a discussion about that corruption anytime you're ready.
Thank you very much for that, Yog. Let me see. We're going straight to the comments. Gildarie, after all those who were involved in this election rigging, how can the Guyanese people expect that they'd be good opposition leaders and MPs? Well, that's the issue that we're discussing here. As to, or there is a need, an urgent need, a critical need, because the system is so designed for there to be an opposition, and more so now. We are a oil producing nation, and you know what happened in an oil producing nation. A lot of things could happen, and we would have had a reason to question our deal with ExxonMobil. And even now, I think there's this statement or the story that's in Kaiser News today. Guyana broke its own laws to facilitate Exxon's flaring. And I think this is Melinda Janke, very good lawyer, international lawyer. And she would have raised things. It's not even allowed in the law to allow flaring, and anything that you do that is going to damage the environment. If you release in gas, that is going to damage. Especially, it has I think about 250 toxins. Is what I'm reading there. And so, if the law does not allow it, how do you allow Exxon even during the setting up phase? This is not a setup phase anymore. This is actual full-fledged production that this thing would have happened, and it's only by, I'm not sure how the story slipped out, that they were actual flaring the gas into the atmosphere, and then you hear the amount of gas. Of course, there's a cost to that and everything, but the damage to the environment and the fact that we live in just 100 miles from where the operation is taking place, we have to be very concerned. And not only that, if you're bending over backwards to allow something like that to happen, or you're allowing it to happen, and not keep the stakeholders, the shareholders, apprised of what is going on, then something is wrong. Something is very, very wrong in this country.
Correct, Leonard. And also remember that the flaring is not just a little bit, it's over 10 billion cubic feet of gas. So there are a couple of simultaneous discussions, points people need to keep in mind. One is that the flaring and the damage to the environment, right? Two is that if the world proves that there is a potential damage that is caused directly by a Guyana activity, there might be further repercussions for Guyana. Three, there is a foregone revenues that we could have gotten had that gas not been burnt, had we been able to get our contracts and get our agreements done properly. We may have been able to negotiate properly and get the gas tapped and fed across this country, for example, for people to use. All of that, so the foregone revenues are there. And more importantly, Leonard, is unless and until we have a legitimate government in place, nobody can talk to them. Nobody is going to do anything. There'll be no penalties. There'll be no action. You and I and Kiter News and everybody's going to continue to talk, but there's no agency, statutory or otherwise, that an illegal government can take against them. Who is going to take them to court?
Well, there's the thing. That's the question. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm a regular listener to the program. I like to highlight the situation on your program. It's very frustrating every day that goes by and these squatters remain in office. We have a triple threat in our hands: a political crisis, a health crisis, and an economic one, apart from not having enough to eat. We have bills to pay. For instance, courts. Sometimes it's only 1 day a week that you're working. So when it's due date and it's passed, you're in arrears. Will the government help us with that? And so, Yog, this person who would have been sending us this is so very reflective of so many other persons who have been suffering across this land. You have bills, they would be talking about mortgages, businesses. There's something we're not even talking about. We know that thousands of small businesses are never going to they're not going to be able to recover and to move on from here. It's going to take a special kind of facility, or maybe a loan thing that is going to have to be introduced, that is going to really start back these people on the feet, and it's going to be a very slow process. This recovery that's going to happen because of COVID-19, if it does, it's going to take months, maybe years to bring us back to maybe before March 2nd, before we would have had the shutdown. It is going to take a little while. So it is something, I hear what that person is saying.
Right. Indeed, Leonard. I mean, a lot of persons, majority of Guyanese want this political problem to go away so that we could move on with our lives, because we have mouths to feed, we have things to look after. We have to get back to our land, we have to get back to our jobs. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants this to go away just so that we can get back to our lives.
Yes.
But it doesn't seem to be going away. It's one of those never-ending series, it's one of those never-ending television series, maybe. And let me just say to Raul, we actually dealt with that discussion, my brother. We did talk about, why about the potential of the CEO stepping aside, and about the 19 fraud charges that would have been facing the Mr. Ali. So we did have that discussion. No need to go it back. But please, and I say that, Leonard, to say this, ladies and gentlemen, please be aware that you can review, preview, relook at these discussions at any time, at your pleasure. Because if you go to Kaito Radio channel, the YouTube channel, or you go to the Facebook page and you scroll down, you're always going to find these videos there stored for posterity.
Thank you very much, dear Yog. And somebody is telling me, I'm trying to get some photographs, that at the U.S. Embassy there's a group of protesters. And I did see the Kaiser News today, and them boys, the coalition want to know if the sanctions apply to invalid visas as well. So there's a little lap there, but it is there is a group that's protesting, I presume, the U.S. Announcing sanctions, visa revocations for several government officials, although the U.S. Embassy and the U.S. government has not come out and give names. They say that's in keeping with their regulations, that they don't name the parties. Sources, well-placed sources, have indicated that it is the cabinet of the coalition, the former cabinet, all the top officials, the ministers, lawyers. I think it's about 40 something names we were told, starting with the president, David Granger, and going downwards. And of course, Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu would have been in that name there. Keith Lowenfield is in that name there too, and a couple of lawyers, a couple of media personalities. We were also told have been affected as well. We're still trying to get the official list, but let's see. When we get it, we release it. There's another caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Trying to get the official list, but
Could you lower your volume if you're calling us, please? Thank you very much. Do we have it, or have we lost that call? Yes. If you're calling us, please lower your volume so we can be able to accommodate it. Let me see. So, in addition, good afternoon. One question. I want your view. What is the effect? What effect will Mark Phillip has on the discipline services when Ali is sworn in and Granger refuses to leave office? Good question. We would have asked. We were trying to gauge. A couple nights back, we would have had Mark Phillips, who's a prime ministerial candidate for the People's Progressive Party, Civic. He was a former army chief, and of course, we were trying to gauge from him as to what's the mood of the army and the police. And one thing he's made very clear, based on his analysis and his feel, he believes that the army, based on statement coming from the new army chief, a gentleman by the name of Bess, that they will act professionally in keeping with the law, and he believes that the police will do the same thing. Yog, maybe some thoughts from you?
At this stage, it would be speculation,
Yes.
Leonard. I would certainly hope that when the change of government takes place, that there will be engaging discussion between persons who are there and persons who are coming in and persons who are leaving to ensure that the country is put first. I mean, if somebody is good for a position, not because of political patronage, they must be kicked out. I mean, we got to move past nepotism and move past cronyism and all these things, man. If somebody is good, I don't care what it is. The best qualified person must get a job. It doesn't matter what party and what race and whatever they belong to. And, Leonard, it's up to the public to call it out when you see it. We got to move beyond certain things. So, but to come back to this, the core question there is stability and peace and all of that. That has to be forefront. And I'm sure, given the discussion we had with Mark Phillips, given the discussion we had with Irfan Ali himself in room 592, these people seem to be set, their minds are set that, when the swearing in happens and they get into government, they are going to look at not just booting people aside, they're going to look at creating what should be an empowering environment where persons can feel that they belong.
Thank you very much for that, Yog. Let me see today. Yes, good afternoon. There are 2 positive COVID cases in Region 2 at the Saudi hospital. It was confirmed by a doctor and nurse working there, but I'm not hearing it in the news. People of Esquire would need to know about this. I could tell you that the Ministry of Health try to keep these things on the wrap. They don't want to get people very upset. There are protocols that are kick-started whenever these cases come about, personnel, what they have to do, and so on. The entire country, all the medical personnel, we've been told, and these are according to the Ministry of Health officials as well as representatives who are sitting on the COVID-19 task force, that whenever these cases come or people are suspected to be COVID-19 positive, there's certain things that kicks into place that you're put in isolation. There's special areas that are treating COVID-19 patients. So I presume that they are looking at it, but we are going to look into that at the Saudi hospital there. So let's see what else I have here. I want you to highlight for me how APNU going on a campaign trail tomorrow, and we as business owners can't have customers at our bar. This is social distance. Is this social distancing between the APNU? And this is something that we would have discussed a little earlier. We don't understand how they're going to go about doing it if it's full campaign mode again. What are you campaigning for? There is a recount. The GCOM is preparing to have a declaration. The matter is before the court. The matter is tomorrow, but you're heading out on the road to have. I'm not sure what is it that they're going to do, Yog.
Leonard, no one knows what they're going to do. There are people are out there. I'm not going to say they, but people are out there, and they're waiting for whatever new narrative some political masters are going to spin for the day, and they put that on their placards and they start to march about it. It was interesting. I forwarded you something there. It's interesting to see who and who would have come out as part of the crowds to support Mr. Lowenfield this morning. So one cannot say that there is no political directive here now, Leonard. It is very, very clear. And that is shared by guess who? By the Guyana Rag.
Oh my! They're sharing it that they're going around the place to tell people what?
You know, that was a picture in front of the court this morning with Mr. Lowenfield going there, and you could see somebody who's been a former minister of government there in support.
Interesting. Good afternoon, Leonard and Yog. My brother's a frontline worker, and this is how the government of Guyana is rewarding him. He's part of the screening team for the COVID-19 at the hospital. This is how the government plans to survive. Let me see. Hold on. This is interesting. He's being paid. The person is being paid 69. I'm going to come back to this because I got to read it and digest it a little. But the people, our frontline workers, a good day to all of you. Our ambulance driver, the cleaners, the nurses, the doctors, everybody who's in charge or who is leading the way to fight this COVID-19 thing. It's been more than 4 months now. You guys have been doing a tremendous job under pressure, little resources, and of course, a population and maybe patients who are unforgiving when it comes to what they expect. So I want to say good day to all our medical workers out there, and we see you. We understand what you're doing. We appreciate it, and we have a mad love for you people out there. So there's a caller online. Let's go ahead, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air. Oh, that person is gone. Yog, how difficult it is must have been for not only the police people but our health workers. How difficult is it would they have had it?
Well, Leonard, it is very difficult because look, on one hand, these people got a balance between keeping themselves safe while doing their job that is expected of them. And on the other hand, Leonard, we kind of sometimes take it for granted, but the doctors and the nurses, the policemen and the teachers, they're all affected with what's going on politically too. Everybody is affected. Everybody's frustrated. You continue to pray that the doctors and nurses and so forth do not find the frustration getting to them, or the policemen getting to them in such a way that it would affect their work. Because if a nurse's or a doctor's performance is affected, it will be bad for whoever is in front of them. But so far, we have had very good doctors. We have had very good medical professionals. And I would like to take this opportunity to, just say hello to our doctors and nurses all across this country, continuing to work under extreme circumstances, continuing to look after people, even though the public health system has no pharmaceuticals available, but they continue to do what they could do, Leonard. And I think, they continue to be the heroes we look up to.
Yes, and so if you're now joined us on elections and COVID-19 Watch here on Kaicho Radio, we tell you that the Chief Elections Officer, Keith Lowenfield, would have appeared in court this morning. He was charged, privately filed charge by a opposition candidate, Dr. Josh Kanai. 3 charges slapped on him with regards to fraud and he would have appeared and placed on $450,000 bail. This morning, his legal team would have included Nigel Hughes as well as Neil Boston, also there to support him at the court. Were a number of other persons, including Minister Simone Brooms. At least that is what the pictures are saying here, that she was there lending him support, or at least she was present at the Georgetown Magistrate Court there along Brickdam High Street. So there's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You're here.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How are you this afternoon?
Pretty good, sir. Pretty good.
Mr. Yog, you're good too?
Yes, sir.
And I have to ask a question. Now tell me something. If this case finished, let's say Monday or Tuesday, and it's not going to the CCJ, and let's say it's going to the CCJ, would the chair be waiting on this thing going wrong in circles or circles? Let's say suppose CCJ finish it, and they file another case. Would she be waiting all the time and have this country waiting on her? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yog. Thank you very much, the caller. Yog, I don't know what to say. It's anybody's guess. I think if we follow in what would have been the statements of the GCOM chair's attorney, Kim Kite, in the last occasion when the matter came up, what happens next? She says we are going to do what we've been doing, and therefore, if there's a court case, we are going to wait until the outcome of that. I rather presume if somebody tells Kim Kite or the GCOM chair again that following the case, that the decision is coming out either Monday or Tuesday, that they're probably going to allow time for the CCJ to do its thing. That is, if there's a case goes before it. We rather suspect that there will be such a case. Yog?
As we discussed last night, and we discussed the night before with Mr. Ram and Mr. Selwyn Peters, the attorneys feel, and Freddie certainly supported that contention, I think, the attorneys feel that, unfortunately, a vicious cycle has started. They feel that the chairman has shown her hand in terms of she always prefers to wait as long as something is in front of the court. So, unfortunately, that may not change unless the chairman can very well say tomorrow, next day, any day, that listen, this thing has gone on too long. I am happy with the court's ruling, or I'm satisfied that the court has pronounced on this matter. I have nothing no feta upon me. I have no stay. I have nothing instruction from the court telling me I cannot move, and I am going to move. What will then happen the moment she does that? Lowenfield will say, well, his matter is in front of the court. And we got to remember, the chairman should take note that Lowenfield's lawyer pull out of the matter and say, we are not going to participate and we are not going to make any presentation on this matter. Right? So the chairman could very well say that, look, my with all my years behind me, I know that we have reached a stage and move on. At that point in time, Lowenfield may still want to do the bidding of his masters, but at least something will be happening, Leonard, because the caller is right, and you and I have spoken about it many times before. After this court case, there may be another one.
Yes, Yog, and a little while back, I would have spoken about a frontline worker who seems to have gotten himself or herself in a jam. Apparently that they would have been paying taxes, and the taxman sent some money here, and these are people who are in the front line, $70,000 that they have to pay in back taxes. And, the chargeable income, when you see this, at this point in time, people going through so much stress, and you see this, and you have on the other side, while somebody might say there's a bad example or a bad comparison, so much money that's being wasted on court cases, frivolous court cases, and you send in one of our frontline worker $69,000-$70,000 bill from the taxman. What do you think is happening? What is happening to our people, the mindset?
Well, Leonard, it's a difficult thing. We probably need to invite the commissioner general to come and have a chat with us one day, because everybody's concerned. everybody's concerned about taxes due and new taxes or anything else, because there is no reprieve. There is nothing, no help being given to people. Now, one would say that let us take advanced corporation taxes. One, if you own a company and you ought to have been paying your advanced corporation taxes, it is due, and it is due, full stop. The taxman doesn't operate with emotions. The taxman operates with according to law. And so if it is due, it is due. Now, you as a taxpayer would probably have to write and beg for either a delay or a review or something. But I am not saying here that I'm not criticizing the tax people. What we do know is that the tax people don't work with emotions; they work with the law, and the law is the law. So to their credit, they will do what they have to do, Leonard. But I would want to say that as a people now, we all got to think about what we want to do as well. And, as a people, we need to start appealing to the authorities and appeal to the tax places. The other problem you have, Leonard, if the taxman doesn't collect the taxes, what happens next?
Well, you ain't gonna get money. I don't know where you're gonna get money from. Could you take a loan as a government from the bank? Well, somebody's asking whether they could file a lawsuit against GT&T for disturbing the feed over and over again. What we should be demanding is maybe start writing letters, or maybe do how you call it, a petition to have the liberalization process come to an end very, very quickly. We know that it's been under this been 5 years, and we have not completed this process under the coalition. I think if somebody was going to ask me, was one of the biggest failures of this administration, this past administration, I would say the telecoms liberalization process would have been one, and I know that's very close to you, Yog. Today, we've seen how one company has held this country almost, would you say, knee to the neck? Can't ask you that, but I would ask that to the people of Guyana. This is something that should not be tolerated. No company in Guyana should be doing that to anybody. We call them, and what they have done with this COVID thing, not being a good corporate citizen, but it's all in the interest of profits. What is another caller in line? Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hi, good afternoon, Leonard. Good afternoon, Dr. Yog.
Good afternoon, sir.
Sir, I like to bring some issues to your attention. So, sir, we are collecting our little small piece from MoneyGram.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine we are getting so much licks in Guyana. Things are so hard. You know what is the money MoneyGram is giving people for $1 and taking a set of money? $202 they're giving us. And they are not having nothing to sell back to nobody. How is this fair to us?
When you say sell back, what do you mean by that?
No, like if I wanted to send something for my cousin in Venezuela, they said they have no money to sell. They don't have money to sell. But they are giving you two for your dollar when your family send it for you. Is this fair? For the past 2 years, MoneyGram hasn't increased their money yet. And nobody is doing nothing for our poor people. Secondly, sir, this money that these tax people are collecting, what about these big lawyers and what is fighting these cases? Are they paying the fair share of tax?
Very good question. I think a couple of years back we could probably answer you off here, but go ahead. Any other questions?
Yes, Leonard. This is one that is biting me. All these big money, these lawyers, them is carrying away the senior counsel from Trinidad. So who's paying these people? We don't care who pay them, but pay a fair share of tax to us. Because when we go out there, we have to pay a share of tax to the country we go to, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, we are living in this lawless land of Guyana because the de facto leader, the sanctimonious gangster who wanted to live hearty and heavily, and here we have a freedom fighter or a resistance fighter is there, Joseph Harmon. We want you to know all the resistance fighter. I preferable wait 5 years or 5 more months for something from wait 5 more decades. like what they're going through, because that's what they don't want, because they would be in power for the next 5 decades when they get through out here the next couple of days. You have a good day, Commerce.
Thank you very much, sir. You've raised two issues there. I think MoneyGram. We'll have to look into this. I'm not sure. What I could tell you is with regards to the exchange rate. I think if you want U.S. industry, there's cash right now. I think you could pay as much as $250. I'm hearing it's more than that for $1. The second thing is we're going to look into that MoneyGram situation. 202. I'm not sure whether that is how that is being done. I think they fall on the bank again. With regards to lawyers and taxes, a couple of years back, I think there was an attempt by GRA to see how they could rein in this issue. And the lawyers went and I can't remember if it was Safir Hussain or one of them. They would have filed some court actions against this issue here. I think it was against GRA. Over to you, Yog.
Yes, Leonard. And I just sent you a note there, my brother. We do have a lot of I'd like to just take a pause for a moment to say this. We do have a lot of brothers and sisters in Guyana that really lend their time and efforts and services to make sure that people's conditions are dealt with, Leonard. I just sent you something. One of our brothers has promised to give some help. And so that is something, if you can send me the number of the person there, if we can get a number there sent over, then that would be great. But brothers and sisters, with regards to taxes and who's paying their fair share, that is something that has a lot of problems. Look, under the PVP government, there were a lot of loopholes under the tax regime. There are people who were benefiting from duty-free concessions. There were persons who were getting away with a lot of things that they ought not to have gotten away with. We can list a couple of them right now, but we're not going to go down that road because you know what? Nothing has changed. Under this government, a lot of those things, I've spoken about one of them, the want of entry vehicles, right? So that is one dimension. The other dimension, of course, is the entire even-handedness of the tax system. We do know, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, it is what it is, that the smart, call it smart, the people who smart their way through things, they are able to get away with paying less taxes. And, this is why a country will only advance when you have good systems enforced in place. And by this, I mean the following, Leonard. Mm-hmm. Because as a people, we at the grassroots, we might feel that, okay, a policeman stop us on the road and we are tempted to pay the policeman a bribe to get away from that nuisance of having to go to the court or whatever. But by attempting to pay a bribe, you are creating a problem. You're creating a vicious problem. So everybody else suffer because then, that fortunate or unfortunate person that you are attempting to pay off to might either charge you, which they should, for bribery, or might expect the same from other people. Now, let's put that into the tax system. Because some people are getting away with it, it creates an unevenness along the spectrum. But there are some people who do whatever and pay a lot of money to get away with things, and they're allowed to get away with it. So it makes everybody suffer. Those who can afford or who are able or should be able to pay their taxes, they don't pay their fair share of taxes. And the saddest thing, Leonard, is that the head of GRA is a political appointee. And I say that not meaning to insult the former Mr. Satar or the current Mr. Seisha, but unfortunately, they are both appointed by a political system. So it is something where you have to now look at whether there are directives with regards to duty-free concessions, whether there are directives with regards to certain things and certain allowances and incentives, whether people are being made to pay their fair share of taxes as other people will. I mean, there's so much we can talk about this, but it is something that is a sore point for Guyana.
Yes, and anything to do with revenues, how we're spending it, how we're giving it. Concessions, among other things, is something that is very important. Good afternoon to you guys. That's so right. Doctors and nurses doing a godlike work. As a mother of 3 doctors in my family, I pray for the safety. And thank you for doing a good job from a mom who always listens. Thank you very much, dear mom. Let's go straight, to the caller. There's a caller in here. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
I enjoy your program every day.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm trying to get through, but the whole week only today I could get through.
Raj, you got to blame Raj for that.
Okay, I'm like to make a point there that how long can we go through with this what's going on? Right now we even getting medication at the clinic. I have a sister who on insulin. They Lenten insulin since January. We cannot get any Lenten insulin from the clinic.
Where is this?
I live up East Bank.
East Bank. And which clinic are you talking about?
I talk about all the clinics at East Bank. We run all the clinics and we can get no Lenten insulin. From Grove Clinic to Horace Sterling Clinic to Diamond Hospital, you name it, to the Echoes, all about we can get a Lenten insulin. And my sister husband is a pensioner, and they can't afford and they can't live on the justice pension money and buy medication too. It is very hard that pensioners not get no money, no assistance besides what they get from the 20,500. How much thing they can do with that?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to know how long we could hold on like this, because this is 7 months in the year and we can't get nothing.
Thank
the
you.
money all is going different ways. Fighting case, I know you can't get medication.
We'll pass this information on to the Ministry of Health and see if there's anything they could say to us.
I hope that I can they can get some help some way. And we all thank you very much and listen to our voice.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Do have a pleasant rest of the day. And Yog, this is something that I'm not sure if you were getting insulin all the time and then all of a sudden stop. Who's paying attention? Isn't the ministry supposed to be paying attention to all of this? This is madness.
Well, Leonard, yeah, it's symptomatic of everything else that's going around with the country. There are people out there with critical medical conditions that need care. Medical supplies, we're not hearing anything. You remember, unfortunately, the medical bills of the Ministry of Health are about the largest in the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it has always been one scandal or another going back to decades. It's always been one problem or another. It's one of the areas that has been rife with corruption. And so that continues, Leonard. And yes, people need insulin. People need other types of pharmaceuticals and services and stuff like that. And it's really not happening. I see viewers and listeners also pointing out that it is not just MoneyGram, it is Western Union.
Yes.
It is. So this is another area. I mean, people are trying to help, but their money are being shaved off by these companies.
192. How does Western Union do that? If you're listening to us, any representatives of Western Union, MoneyGram, maybe there's a simple explanation for that. But people saying that your rates are too low, I'm going to have to get on to the central bank governor, Dr. Gobind Ganga, because I'm almost sure that there's something that the Western Union, MoneyGram, they fall under the Bank of Guyana's jurisdiction. So we have something, we've been given some homework here today to do for the people of Guyana. We are going to work on that. So thank you very much for that. Yes, go ahead, Yog.
I think even the Bank of Guyana rate, which is not necessarily the rate for commercial exchange, but the Bank of Guyana rate seems to be about 207, 207.98. What I find strange too, Leonard, is don't forget that these companies are charging a fee as well.
Yes, well, it's a fee, but I can't understand. I can understand you taking a fee. That's what you survive on. But for you to also put that is beyond low. That is beyond low. If you go to the bank now, the commercial banks, I think you would pay 217, 220 if you want to send out some money via transfer.
Street rate is 238.
And the street rate, I think But what are the banks charging?
I'm not so sure. I'm trying to make contact with someone.
Right, right, right. But the definitely something is wrong here. The bank again. Why is that rate so low? And then you see, they're saying Western Union 192 is a rate, almost $192 to one US. And when out on the road, there's something is wrong there. Western Union, MoneyGram. Somebody needs to address this issue. Let us see, because we cannot, you can't do that. This is they're saying that it's highway robbery at this point in time. There's a call online. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon to you.
Yes.
I was trying to get on to you for a while. I'm a young mother, a 33-year-old mother with a 5-year-old son. He doesn't see. So I was trying to get on to you to see if we can get some help, please.
Yes. Hold the line one moment. Could we put her? We're gonna put her. We're gonna go off here and just take her number very quickly.
Okay.
Could you give me a number very quickly? We off here. Yes. Go ahead, ma'am. Quickly. What's the number? What's the number, ma'am? I can't hear her. Yes. Could you give me a number, ma'am?
673
673
54.
54
Yeah, 673
54
5490.
90. Okay. Thank you very much. We give you a call sometime.
Person from Leonard.
Yes, thank you very much. Yog, our apologies. Our apologies there. We had to take the lady's number off here.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Yog, yes, we come back to the in the Parika. They said somebody said it's 215 in the Parika area. It's around 215, 217. Some persons are saying here. But definitely, if you go out on the street, it's going to go upwards from 240 upwards. In some places, 260, 270. These are, it tells you that something is going on with the economy. Definitely, and of course, exchange rates. If nothing is coming in, nothing is going out. Obviously, the rates are going to go. I understand. I was told that there's a big demand from the Venezuelans, from the Chinese, and of course from the Brazilians as well. And don't forget that there are many Trinidad and Tobago companies here. I don't want to call the names, but there's a couple of them that's here, and there's even one big bank that's Trinidad owned. And so Trinidad has a shortage of the U.S. currency there too. So all this is fueling this situation that we have here, but more so it is being compounded by the COVID-19 situation. Nothing coming, nothing doing. And you're the economist.
Leonard, exactly. Nothing coming, nothing going. And I must send me a note what area that caller is from so that we can know whether you or me, whether we can, which one is more quickly reachable. But Leonard, the other thing that the caller mentioned just now is that, so the MoneyGrams or some of these agencies, let me not call their names specifically, but some of these money transfer agencies are not selling you or are not allowing you to send money out. So that is also a very worrying thing because, they just don't have the foreign exchange facility overseas that they could make that release in their own banking system. And so that might be another challenge that people will have, Leonard. With regards to what I can say to people is that what I've known is that a lot of private persons they have tried to see if they can circumvent the charges and so forth, given the tough time of MoneyGram and other agencies. So I'm sure that persons can direct themselves to friends and families who can help, Leonard.
Yes, and I want to apologize just now. I took that person's number on air. My apologies. I have no control. We're still trying to learn some of these things here. Our apologies. There's no excuse for that. I'm going to be the one to take licks for that, take full responsibility. There's a call online. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, good afternoon, sir. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Leonard and you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I my heart goes out for that patient that called and said there is no insulin in the primary care center. It is a sad state of affairs, and I can tell you, because I work with the healthcare system. Many of my patients, they have uncontrolled diabetes, uncontrolled hypertension, all because they don't have access to the medication at the primary healthcare center. And as a result, they are coming with uncontrolled diabetes, uncontrolled hypertension, more cardiac issue, and these patients cannot they're not able to buy their medication. Sometimes these patients, they come to the clinic and they ask you for some money to go home back. Sometimes they ask you to give them three months date instead of 1 month date because they don't have money to come back to the clinic. So while the Guyanese people are suffering, and especially the patients are not getting their medication, these politicians, they are fighting, they are holding on to power, and they should be ashamed of themselves. They should stop taking their salary now, and they should give that money to the healthcare system for these people to have their metformin and their Dionil and their insulin. It is a sad state of affairs. The health system, in my opinion, is in a crisis, and I'm really sorry for this patient, for all of the patients that don't have their medication at the primary health care center. There are some health centers they open and they do not see the patients. Patients go for dressings. They tell them come back tomorrow, come back next day. It is sad. The primary health care center is to take care of the people in the community. I understand that we have COVID-19 now, and people, they don't want overcrowding at the health center. But who are going to take care of these sick people? I understand COVID-19, but do things the right way. Ensure your patients wear the mask, or send them away from the primary health care center. So that's my comment this afternoon. And indeed, my heart goes out to that patient, and there are many more like that who experience similar problems. Thank you very much, Leonard and Yog, for listening to me.
Thank you very much, caller. And Yog, you're seeing so many stories that are coming out, and I'm not sure. Like I said before, when this is all over, I hope that it's over very soon. I think you might have to recommend some counsel, and I understand that you have some expertise in that. Because this thing here, I can't understand that our people, our leaders, or you say they're not leaders, the people that are sitting there, that are not listening to the cries of the people. If it's not a food in the pot, it's medicine that they're not getting. People are literally, what you're doing there, people are dying. People will die because they're not getting medication. People don't understand this. People are going to die because of that. The situation continues. We're going to come into crisis proportion. Today I'm looking at the feed. People very, very quietly. People are hurting, Yog. People are crying desperately for some help, for some leadership, and we're not seeing this. What you have is a bunch of greedy people, a bunch of nasty people, a bunch of wicked people who are sitting here demanding that they go back in power at any means whatsoever. And the lawyers and everybody are with them. Unbelievable, unbelievable. People that I would have looked up to, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed to see where they're standing now.
That's right, Leonard. And indeed, let me thank our brother for calling in just now. Doc, you are right. And indeed, it is hard to hear all these calls. It is hard to listen to the cries of the people, Leonard. And, the fact that nothing is happening in this country, the fact that absolutely nothing is taking place where the people are concerned, tells you how much these politicians care for you. Leonard, as I said before, notwithstanding their political demands, notwithstanding that they want to steal power and remain in power, had they been doing things for people, Leonard, had they been going out there sharing out hampers and helping people, one would say at least they're doing something. But nothing. They sit in their palaces. They sit in their fancy places, and they don't want to even look at people because they know they cannot look at people in the eyes. So that is where it is even worse, Leonard. Had they been stealing power but doing something with it to help people, one would have, been a little bit softer in approach. But they're doing nothing. All they wanted is to steal power and let the people go to the dogs. Just doesn't matter.
I grew up for a couple of years with my grandmother up in Enmore. And one of the things that used to get me a little worried, I was a little boy then, but every time she telling somebody, don't let me I water fall pan here. This thing used to get me so scared, and I saw somebody did mention it. I'm not sure if you understand it when somebody tells you, don't let the people I water fall pan here. And you're sitting there. Why would you want to be in government and you don't want the people's blessings, that you don't want the people goodwill, that they're there, they're cheering you on, they're clapping for you, want you to do well for this country? Why would you want to run a government or to sit in the office there at Shiv Chandapal Drive, where the Ministry of the Presidency is, and you don't have the will of the people behind you? The entire world is saying that you have lost. And you are saying, the recount have shown that you have lost. The CARICOM have said that. Your nearest neighbor, Brazil, is saying that. Across the South American nations here, several nations have come together, issued a statement and say that you have lost. The UN, the EU, the ABC and EU countries, OAS, CARICOM, Commonwealth, I think I repeated myself a couple of times here. Everybody issuing statement. You've been slapped with sanctions and the whole world is wrong, and then you come back and you're attacking a woman. You want to burn her house down, that's one. You want to burn her properties down. You go after the judge. You go after Ralph Gonsalves. I mean, I'm not sure if you're not seeing what is happening here, if you're not seeing for yourself what you're doing to the people. You're dividing the people. You don't want to give them any help. A woman calling here insulin, you would have heard another person calling she doesn't have anything for her baby. These are things, if you don't have a heart, if you're not listening. I know I sound as if I'm preaching now, but I don't know. This thing is affecting me, my brother. It's affecting me.
It is. And let me just share, you mentioned Brazil and so forth. So as of recently, there are six countries of the South American continent have now come out speaking against the Granger cabal. These are Brazil, Colombia, Chile, Ecuador, Paraguay, and Peru. They have jointly called on GCOM to formally declare the results. They're basically telling Granger, take your licks like a man, get out. So, Leonard, with each passing day, more and more countries are telling them that if you stay there, we are not going to support you. We are not going to have any relationship with you. We are not going to have any communication with you.
Well, I don't know, Yoga. It is unbelievable. This is shameful. And you know what it is? We got to start calling them now. These people are supposed to get families. They have families, these representatives. What are the families saying to them? Are they endorsing this? Are they church-going people? Are they God-fearing people? Do they not see what is happening? That the whole world is laughing at us. That the entire world, that you've gone after now, the Secretary General of CARICOM to talk about. I mean, I don't understand the level in which we have gone to, that we've descended into. I mean, how do you sit? How are you going to drive with your vehicle coming out to a yard and your next door neighbor looking at them and says you're a thief? That you tried stealing elections. What are you going to say to the people that if you walk into a rum shop or maybe a restaurant and the people looking at you and everybody down their head, nobody want to be seen with you? I mean, I'm not sure how it is that if they're thinking so far, what they're thinking now is what is happening right now. Nothing else matters. And I've lost a lot of good friends, persons that I believe who would have stood tall in their days fighting for something, because they are now fighting for something else because it's one of their own. If you look at the People's Progressive Party, Civic, I would have talked about that. You look at the other small parties, the new parties rather, let's don't call them small. They have emerged and they are doing well. These are cross-section of good, decent Guyanese people, Yog, good, decent Guyanese people who are professional. You have one party filled with doctors, others with lawyers, people who've been doing charity work and so on, people who want to move this country forward. So you can't say a party is of a particular ethnic race because while it might be predominantly so, you look at the People's Progressive Party, one of the leaders, they have many leaders there. One of the leaders is Mark Phillips. He came from he's not just a token figure, as somebody would say. You look at the others, it's a cross section that you see in there. So this thing is not about you and me anymore, of different divide of ethnic relations. And I guess Freddie is going to come and dissect it in his own little way. But the reality is that we are living here, that what's best for Guyana. And we have to ensure that we never ever allow any other government, any other party to come here and attempt to do what has been done to us in the last 4.5 months. What has been done to us is a beating of the people. It is almost, I don't want to say it and then we get ourselves into trouble. But what has been done here is not IPAS. It's beyond that. It's not IPAS. It's beyond that. And
Correctly.
And Yog, this evening, room 592, for your comments here, and maybe you could tell us a little about room 592.
Yes, Leonard. A couple of things. One is that viewers and listeners, I just want to share this quotation, Leonard. And this quotation is coming. I think it's a nice time, and I want to say to our Rastafarian brothers and sisters, we celebrate Haile Selassie's birthday together with you. Yesterday was his birthday, Leonard, and Mr. Selassie, that great thinker, here is what he said. He said, throughout history, it has been the inaction of those who could have acted, the indifference of those who should have known better, the silence of the voice of justice when it mattered the most, that had made it possible for evil to triumph. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as we celebrate this birthday of Haile Selassie on July 23rd, which was yesterday, let us remember, it is our silence that makes a dictatorship. It is our silence that makes a corrupt government stay in government. It is our silence that will make our future generation continue to punish. Now, with regards to room 592 tonight, Leonard, we want to have an engagement with some of the members of the diaspora. And a lot of older Guyanese might remember a gentleman by the name of Paul Nehru, Tennessee.
Yes.
He would have been part of the DLM, the labor movement in the 1980s. Mm-hmm. And so himself, he is currently a professor in one of the University DC. He and a colleague of his will be joining us in room 592 tonight, because we want to talk about what, from their perspective, they're seeing here for these elections, Leonard. Remember, from the diaspora, the engagement and the way people see things might be a little different. Tonight we want him to, because he has been true. Everybody is saying that, okay, here is what PPP has taught, here is what PPP has experienced. So here is a gentleman who has also experienced things from his own perspective, having been in the political forefront from the DLM, that will be joining us tonight to talk about what he is seeing of the current cabal and how he thinks that it can be, what's the next step forward. He'll be joined by Professor Floyd Hayes, mm-hmm. who will also be talking about it. So that's what we're looking out for tonight. And, tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, is a weekend ahead. And we want to ensure that we stay on top of our game, because tomorrow will be this court hearing.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Yog. And we keep you tomorrow, 10 o'clock, the Kaicho Radio, 99.1, 99.5. We are going to be bringing you live coverage of that court case at the Court of Appeal in Kingston there. So let's make sure that you join us. Our YouTube is down at the moment. We've been blocked, but you could get us on Facebook. And of course, we're going to put up, there's a link that we're going to put there, that we have a temporary YouTube that you could probably use. So tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we're going to stand by to bring you that. In the meantime, let me tell you what would have transpired today in the courts of Guyana. Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield would have appeared in court slapped with 3 charges. It was privately filed by opposition candidate Dr. Josh Kanai, and it has to do with fraud with regards to the March 2nd elections that he's alleging that Keith Lowenfield would have committed. Keith Lowenfield appeared with lawyers this morning after dodging the summons that marshals were looking to serve him. They were able to do so yesterday. He appeared this morning, was placed on $450,000 bail. Will have to appear back in mid-August at the same court as the case continues. He would have taken Nigel Hughes and Neil Boston. Neil Boston would have been a lawyer for the coalition, and of course Nigel Hughes, a former senior official of the Alliance for Change. He would have been appearing there, and of course in front of the court there, the magistrate court this morning, would have been Minister Simona Brooms lending support to Keith Lowenfield. So that is the story that we have there to tell you with regards to elections 2020. I think we have a few moments, maybe one more call. Let's go to the lines. Good day, calling you on the air. Could you lower your volume on your radio, please? Could you do that? The person's there. Yes, go ahead.
Good day. Am I on the Kaiju Radio?
Yes, you're on air. Go ahead.
Good day to you, sir. Let me pull in the car and I'm driving and you say stick by the law.
Yes, please do that. Do that.
Yes, sir. Now, I'm a concerned citizen about my country and its people. I'm so concerned is that I'm on the street vending. I dwell with the people. I collaborate with the people. I move with the people. I know the plight of the people, my brother. You know, when a man used to come to your stall, he used to come and buy a pound of meat. You know what they're coming and buy now, Mr. Yog Mahadeo and Gildarie? They're coming to buy half pound. They're coming with $200. Oh, butcher, this is what I got. What can I do as a butcher? Should I turn these people away?
Wow.
That's how low this thing gone, my brother. A man come down to today, my brother. I was so hurt. He said, brother, I went to best hospital and I get tablet. They give me prescription. I got money. I got wait for pension. I took $500 out of my pocket because he said $500 short. I give you $500 for that. Uncle, where you live? He said, he live number 1 canal. I said, I got pass. He said, no, man, you can get one trap with somebody. I said, no, hold $200 more. I took him to a stand. I bought something for him to eat and drink and then send him off. My brother, this country is heading into a perfect storm. Now you are telling me the president of this country, the prime minister of the country, and all these ministers, they don't have friends. They don't have people that they interact with. So one time, none of these people, friends, don't want to talk to them, advise them, man, you lose this election. Man, you're wrong. Give up or something. Wait, nobody? Are these people who in power, are they animals that people are afraid to go and talk to them?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a real dictatorship? Mr. Mahadeo, can you remember the story of Narsingh? He asked God for power, not to die by day or night, not to die in a house nor out a house, up in the air or on the ground, not by weapon, not by man, not by nothing. But let me tell you something, my brother. My Lord, the creator of this universe, is working in a mysterious way. And he will show the people of this country a way out. This is advantages this Granger administration is taking upon the people of this country. When people go to the shop and they can't afford to buy things for their children, they can't afford to buy medication, they can't afford to educate their children. The tears of children is the worst tears to drop upon a man, much less the tears of elderly. When you got the old, the sick, and children tears dropping upon you, is the worst that you can ever get in life. My brother, if I go on, I might say things that I should not say on your program. But Mr. Granger, I'm pleading to you, sir. As a human being, as a man who respect God, who bow before God, you have lost the election. Accept defeat and free the people out of bondage. This is slavery you're taking your people back to, man. When a man could go to the shop and he can't afford to buy half pound of meat to feed his children, a man can't afford to buy a pound of sugar to make tea to give to his children, a woman can't afford to buy milk to give her children. What are you to call yourself a president, a father of a nation? You are a disgrace and shame to humanity. I'm ashamed to call you the president of the Republic of Guyana. You have no shame, sir. You have a blessed day.
Thank you very much, caller. And Yog, I think the caller would have said what thousands of Guyanese people want to say and what they've been complaining about, what they've been commenting on. In closing, very quickly, before we wrap this up, anything else that you would want to say, Yog?
Leonard, I just want to ask everyone to continue to stay focused. Like that caller just called and said, let us remember that ultimately the truth will triumph. The universe has a way, I believe, of working itself out, and we certainly know that this too shall pass. What we have to work on ourselves is what will it take out of us? At what cost will it pass? And we got to ensure that that cost is not more than we can bear. In other words, Leonard, it's totally within our control. So I want to ask everybody, stay firm, stay calm, and stay safe, because you and I are going to see everybody again tonight in room 592.
Thank you very much, dear Dr. Yog Mahadeo. This is the Elections COVID-19 Watch. It has been a pleasure, a very touching day. I think more than ever, you guys are really becoming a part of us. And so wherever you've joined us from, all across this beautiful country of ours, across this region, Europe, North America, I want to say good day to you. We are going to be back with you at 7:30 p.m. sharp, right here for room 592. Dr. Yog Mahadeo is going to lead the way. Thank you very much and have a pleasant rest of the day.
Kaiser Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kaiser Radio.